If you read all the way through Genesis, you'll notice a phrase that appears over and over.
These are the generations.
Each time that phrase appears, it marks a new section. So that's one way you can understand the structure of Genesis. If you stick around, though, I've got an even better way to help you understand the structure of this book. That's coming up next. Even the structure of Genesis revolves around the letter P. That's because Genesis divides neatly into two sections: Primeval History and Patriarchal History. The Primeval History portion of Genesis includes chapters 1 through 11. It contains the creation story in Genesis 1, the story of Adam and Eve in Genesis 2 and 3, and the story of Cain and Abel in chapter 4. After Genesis 5, which records all the descendants of Adam, the rest of the primeval history focuses on Noah's story and the story of his sons. Another way you can think of the primeval history portion of Genesis is as a back and forth between goodness and wickedness. Everything is very good in Genesis 1, but it becomes corrupted in chapters 2 through 6. At the end of chapter 6, and in this chapter 7, God spares Noah, who is righteous and good, while the rest of the earth is cleansed from its wickedness by a terrible flood. All is good again at the end of Genesis 8, when dry ground appears and Noah builds an altar to God. But by chapter 9, wickedness has begun to creep in again. The arrogance of those building the Tower of Babel in chapter 11 angers God, and the primeval history ends with humankind scattered and divided. The patriarchal history portion of Genesis includes the rest of the book, chapters 12 through 50. In chapters 12 through 25, we get the extended story of the first patriarch, Abram, who becomes Abraham. Abraham's story is characterized by great devotion and the fulfillment of God's promises. He is given land in Canaan. He gains political status in Canaan, and he is given two sons, Isaac and Ishmael, and promised by God that his descendants will be as numerous as the stars. The second half of the patriarchal history, or chapters 26 through 50, chronicles the lives of three key figures, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph. Like Abraham, each of these patriarchs receives a promise from God, a covenant of prosperity. And though each of these three men goes on to make his share of mistakes, God's promise is fulfilled in each case.